This is a mess, right? Well, there's two things that you can do at this stage. You can clean this up. You can make this look nice and pretty, or you can just tuck things away and try to hide it. That's the nice thing about having fans that are going into the main chamber right here, and then having all of the cabling in the back. But this is a great opportunity for you to go ahead and improve the way your case looks on both the front and the back. As we're getting ready to attach the additional power cables that we need to pull all of this off and the USB cables to the motherboard, it's time to dive into cable management. This is the Project 7 series where I go into long-form, detailed review of how to build a PC here in 2021. If you're into gaming content like this, you go ahead and click that like button, maybe even consider subscribing. Now, I forgot to tell you in the previous video, you're gonna see this shirt, hook 'em horns, a lot in the next couple of videos. We lost power here in Western Michigan. It happens. In fact, it happens so much, we got a portable generator a while ago because we had to, quite frankly. So I'm on portable energy, I can't work, so I might as well record some videos, right? All right, as you can see, we have RGB, that's these cables here. We have USB, now this is the USB-C cable. It has a nice, thin kind of a adapter onto it. This is how you can easily identify the USB-C. Now this is also labeled USB 3.1. That's a particular speed standard, but this is USB-C. This is USB 3.0. And normally you're gonna see it in pairs, just like this. So you're probably gonna see a big, thick cable. Now this one can be a bit of a pain in order to install in a clean way. We have some power cables already down here. Now I unplugged the one for the motherboard and I unplugged our SATA from the RGB, and I recommend you do the same. I personally like going from power supply to component and then tucking things away inside of the power supply area. That way I know exactly the routes and how things are kind of trending, if you will. So let's start there. What does trending mean? Well, you've noticed that there's a trunk right here. There's a bunch of cables. That's called a trend or a trunk. And we're gonna encourage more cables to go into here because, quite frankly, we can't move these elsewhere. This is a big grouping here. If you group up your cables together, it's gonna look better than if you have them spread out throughout the case. We also have a line up here, and we're also gonna have a line down here. That's gonna leave this section here open. That's also gonna be important because we have additional power cables we need to install, which we're gonna do here in this video. I want you to take note of this right here first. This is a Molex connector. Focus on it, not on me. Thank you. The Molex connector is an older standard. Sometimes you might see power supplies use these for charging up pumps. Sometimes fan headers might use these. Sometimes RGBs might use these, but for the most part, I've only seen these used for pumps at this stage of the game. We're not installing a pump for water cooling, so we don't need these cables. Next, we have the power cables for our GPU. Now I'm gonna go ahead and install these cables and get them routed, and I'm gonna install the cables necessary to connect our hard drives, which will be the topic for the next video. The hard drives and the GPU are some of the easiest things to install. So I like to have those basically for last because they don't require a lot of extra cable management or a lot of funky positioning or orientation in order to get these things to work and connect. Therefore, I want them out of the way as long as possible. When I do my cable management, I have those out of the case. I'm not going to worry about those until future videos. So let's start by going ahead and connecting our GPU cables so that we have all of our power cables installed. Now there's two sides to every cable. We've gone over that several times. In this instance, an 8-pin is going to connect to the power supply that's 4 and 4, and it's solid. It doesn't come apart. Then on the other end, you're going to have a 6-pin and a 2-pin. You can put them together to make an 8-pin, and they do separate just like that. Now, one huge word of warning: never, ever, 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 ever rely upon one power cable to supply the power to a GPU if you have 2 connectors for power on the GPU. That's called pigtailing, and it can cause these cables to not only heat up, but it can diminish your performance because it's fighting essentially to get the amount of energy that it might need when it spikes and it boosts. You want to avoid that, and the best, absolute best way to do that is with 2 power cables independent of each other. Now, some mega GPUs that are out there require 3 power cables to be able to hook up. In this instance, we only need 2, and this could be some future proofing. I haven't opened that 3070 Ti yet. I don't know if it has 2 or 1. My guess is it's going to have 2 headers simply because it's EVGA, and that's kind of the thing that they do. So let's get these plugged in. There's dedicated ports on the power supply that we're going to connect these to. If you enjoy gaming performance content, consider clicking that like button, maybe even subscribing. If you're already a subscriber, please visit patreon.com/TheGrayingTech to learn how you can help me pay it forward. That's one power cable connected. Now, before I connect the other one, I want to show you something. You see how they're crimped? If you move the cables around a little bit, see how it starts to uncrimp? Okay, that movement, if you do it excessively, yes, will break a cable. But when they're in this position, they're easier to manipulate than when they're crimped like that. So if you simply loosen them up a little bit, like that, you're going to have an easier time with cable management. And there we have it. We have a bundle of power cables right here. I'm simply pulling those a little bit out of the way here first, because I want to think about the other cables that I have to install, particularly the ones that are going to go to the motherboard. So this here, this is the audio cable for up here. There's a microphone headphone jack up there. The only reason I'm installing this is because I want to test the hypothesis that you should never install these. In my experience, the audio quality on these tends to be rather poor. They don't often come properly shielded, and so you get noise and you get annoyances with it. If you run this next to a power supply, like I'm going to have to do right here, supposedly there's a lot more interference. So again, the only reason I'm throwing this on is to test that hypothesis. In order to connect our audio header, I'm going to lightly route it the way that I want, and then on the motherboard, pretty much universally in this lower corner right here, I know it's hard to see, right in here, that's typically where these headers live, and that's what you're going to plug into. Again, if you want this capability. Now it does have a plug on one of the pins, and that's exactly how you know how to line this up. Just like that. And then we come back in here and we can see we have the excess. So again, my plan is to route that along this edge right here. Now this Phanteks case includes a lot of accessories that are designed for cable management. These ties and these stands are going to become super nice as we start doing this. Okay, that's one way you can do it. You see I tucked it inside of the Velcro and then cinched it down. Now here's another way with this particular case. They're not always this way. I can tuck both of these behind this strap and then tighten the strap down with this little hook. Very cool, very nice, very useful. You can see I'm already starting to form our bottom trunk that's going to then lead up to the top here for a lot of our components. Okay, so the next trunk that I want to address is this top one right here. Now there are additional clips here, but there's a valley right here, and I'm going to use that to connect this header cable. So in this instance, I have to unplug the header cable. It's fine, you just give it a simple tug and they unplug. And then just like I did with the RGB, I'm gonna route that behind our fan. And then reroute it down to the actual motherboard, like so. Now, this assembly here is so large, you're probably never going to see those cables, and that's okay. That's what you want. So don't be afraid to hide cables behind other things. Chances are, people are never even going to notice it's there. Okay, so now we have this top trunk kind of figured out. I'm pulling the cables because the next thing I want to address is this portion of the trunk. Okay, see how we've gotten this side relatively clean, right? Except for the power cables down below, which we'll have to figure out here in a moment. This here is a very clean aesthetic. Now for this portion, where I want this to start is right there. So what does that mean? I don't have one of these right here. That means I either have to come down this way, which I'm not going to do, or I just grab another piece of Velcro. EVGA to the rescue on this. Pretty much they always send their cables wrapped in EVGA Velcro like this, which means I can Velcro this up here together and it's going to stay kind of tucked up there, which is exactly what I want. Now you don't want to do this too snug. You don't want to be too forceful with these things. In fact, when you're at this stage, it kind of helps to be a little bit more loose in how you're putting these together, simply so that you can make these adjustments as you go along. So if I need to add additional cables, I can pop this off and make those changes. And that's really the biggest trick to cable management is you're making progress as you go along, but you don't want to make so much progress that you can't go back and make some changes. The trunk is coming along, but we have these big cables. We're going to have to figure out what to do with these guys. But they're not going to impact right here, so I'm going to go ahead and tie this off like so. That's not as pretty as when it came, right? It was all tucked in over here. But you can see the trunk is forming, it's tighter, it's out of the way, it's not flopping around. Those are kind of the characteristics that I look for in decent kind of cable management. If things are hidden and somewhat tidied, I'm okay with that. Now for this, what I'm thinking is a double back. The port is right here. You can see this cable is very long, so if I just stick it in from here, we're going to have all of this extra. Same thing here for this USB-C. So that means I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go ahead and tighten down this strap as well to get those tightened up and tucked away. So now I have less cable that I'm going to have to fight with. See? Make sure I'm aiming in the right spot, and I am. So they're both going to come through this opening right here. So here's our second trunk already starting to form. I bet you can already start seeing this. So we're going to have a bundle here that I'm going to want to tighten up. So let's go ahead and take advantage of this strap. And then what's really cool about the way Phanteks has designed these is it's double-sided. So it's able to support a trunk moving down and a trunk moving up. Really advantageous. Now here I missed. Remember what I said about keeping it at least a little bit loose so that we can make those fixes? All right, now I'm not going to be too worried about this portion. I think that this is okay for now. So let's come up with these cables. And I'm and I'm trying to trap some of these here as well. Now it's going to be loose. And that, to me, that's okay. I'm not going for perfect. I don't think you should either. I just want it to be a little bit neater than a giant cable-y mess back here. That's really my standard. There are people that go all out. Heck, they might even sleeve this. That's how all out they go, and that's fine too. If that is you, and you are taking such great care of your stuff, kudos, congratulations. Now this USB-C wants to go inside of that much thicker USB 3. So the bigger USB is called USB-A, just in case you ever need to know that. And then the thinner one is USB-B. Those typically have 2 plugs. You might find them on external hard drive cases, by the way. And then you have micro, mini, and then USB-C is the latest one. Double-sided, a lot of your more modern pieces of hardware are going to have those, and your Android phones are going to have them. Apple, I would really like you to, hurry up on that. Your iPads already have USB-C. Let's get rid of the lightning cable. So we have 2 cables. They are in place. Now, I'm pulling on my USB-C, and it's not able to get there. See? So let's make a slight adjustment here. Yeah, right there. It does not like looping around right there, and that's okay. We can make this quick swap because we've kept some slack. We'll simply swap that a little bit and leverage this part right here. So when we tighten those up, it'll hold it in place. USB-C headers look like this. They are often surrounded by metal. That's how you know what they are. And they simply slide in. And in fact, I think they're double-sided. So it doesn't even matter the orientation. USB 3 tends to be the bane of a lot of people's existence because it never looks good, ever. But I want those ports on the front to actually work. So we're gonna make that small adjustment. Now this does go in a specific direction and it can be a little stout. That's another reason people don't like these cables. So that's in place. You can see our C popped off, that's fine. We'll simply move that back in. Now I don't wanna bend these a lot. Okay, that will break these cables if you put too much pressure on them. So I'm gonna leave it like that. And the Phanteks has a little bit of a door, which I'm gonna use to keep a little bit of pressure there, but I'm not gonna keep a lot. I don't wanna break the cable. So for USB-C is right here. USB 3 is right here. I'm gonna tuck that right there. And now I'm going to get this strap in place. There we go. Go ahead and tighten this one up a little bit, and that's in place. These we haven't used yet, but I will tuck those away just for aesthetics. And you can see nice and flat. This can be tightened now. I think we can do this one all the way because we're not gonna be putting anything extra in this spot. So there. I'm gonna tuck that extra fan header back in there. And you can see our nice trunk, everything nice and contained. So we have trunk here, trunk here, trunk here, and a little bit going up there. Now, we have the power cables, but I'm installing hard drives too. And this is a great time to go ahead and get these cables. These are SATA cables. These have the same L design as the power cable does. So we're gonna leverage that side of it, and we're going to get these plugged in. Now there's a 90-degree on this one. Focus. Now there's a 90-degree, as you can kind of see on this one. It's hard to get it into focus. And then there's the straight side. It doesn't really matter which one of these you use. It really comes down to the motherboard itself. Okay, so we have SATA headers down here, and we have SATA headers right here. The combination doesn't really matter which one you use. It's up to you. In this instance, I'm going to leverage the straight side, and I'm going to put it in like that. Now you do have to line up the L. Did you hear it click? Not all of them do that. This particular motherboard has these metal clips on them. This is not standard, but it's a nice added touch by MSI. All right, and I'm just going to double stack my cables right there, and I'm going to route them into the same general hole. That means this I can close. See? So now we have our SATA cables in place. We have our power cables that we are working on right there. And as I'm looking at this, it looks like this is probably going to be my cleanest route for one of these drives. And then the other drive bay is going to be down here. So we're going to piggyback upon itself and tuck that in right like that. And for this, I'm actually going to leverage the Velcro itself to get these in their proper position, as opposed to trying to tuck them. Why? By leveraging the Velcro, I'm maintaining my tunnel, my trunk, but then I'm able to create a little bit of a channel to help route these a little bit more. I know I'm going to have to make some adjustments to these as well, so I don't necessarily want to do something that might make me redo all of my cable management. There. So when we plug in our SATA, I'll probably actually just tuck it like that, so it's nice and clean. And then for this guy, I'm going to double loop. I'm just going to stick it inside of there for now. I'm going to need access to this when I go to actually install the drive bays and everything. So I want that right there. Drive bays are going to go in there, so we're going to probably have to pull up on those cables, which is another reason you want these somewhat loose until you kind of get fully done. Last but not least, power. Now, a lot of people don't like routing their power cables because this really can be a pain. So I'm looking at this part right here. Now, drive is going to go there and there. So chances are this SATA is actually going to have to double back over to here. I think that'll be okay. And then this is where this is going to go. So right now we can't install this because too many unknowns are there. The GPU power cables though, I'm going to spin this around because the first thing I'm going to try is a vertical mount. There's a little door right there to stick those power cables up, and that's immediately what I'm going to do. Take these guys and double back and route them up. Now, I was extremely careful not to snag any other cable as I was going up. That's what I was feeling with this hand on. And then we have them sticking out here, as you can see. Now, I will clean this up once I have the actual GPU installed. I believe I'm going to end up tucking these simply inside of this channel here so that it's hidden. Because I think the GPU is going to sit here and these power cables are going to be very close to it, just like that. But we're going to see once we actually get the mount installed. So our last cable that we can install here is our motherboard cable. So we're going to get this. So we're going to get this routed up for this channel. I want to take advantage of this opening because all of these other cables are coming through here, which means I can't close this. I can close that. I can close that. And that can give me at least a little bit of a cleaner look with simply the cables coming through this one area right here. So we're going to put the cable into its place. Now you can go ahead and snap this on if you would like to, which is what I'm going to end up doing. And then go ahead and finish off the trunk portion of it. Okay, so you can see our trunk right there. That's how I want to try to get this positioned. You see that S curve? That's going to leave this area nice and open in case I need it for the drive bay, which I believe I will. Okay. And this already kind of formed really quick when I did that. It really just looks like it needs this. And then that. There you go. So this mess right here, you can go ahead and get another twist tie or another Velcro piece of tape and secure that into place, and that's going to keep that looking nice and clean. But here is near finished. Significantly better than it was before.